This is the Unit 3 test for LAC 2 English. This test will cover About Russell, Mother Tongue, and one cold read. For questions 1 through 5, refer to Explorations in Literature or to your 3.04 guided reading of About Russell for a complete version of this narrative. Read this excerpt from About Russell by Rita Williams Garcia. He seemed to have an entire conversation for her, and she was interested. Gasp! They were holding hands. Rosalind and I were ecstatic. How does the word gasp affect the tone of this excerpt? It conveys a tone of surprise. It suggests a tone of worry. It creates a tone of hostility. Pause your recording and choose an answer to question 1. Question 2. Read this excerpt from About Russell by Rita Williams Garcia. When did he speak? When he did speak, it was in a monotone, his eyes fixed elsewhere. How do the words monotone and elsewhere affect the mood of this excerpt? The words make the reader feel content with Russell's progress. The words make the reader feel confident about Russell's future success, or the words make the reader feel distressed about Russell's withdrawal. Please pause the recording and choose your answer to question 2. Question 3. Which text excerpt from About Russell best supports the theme that people should be accepted for their differences? With ball still in his hands, Russell calmly left the playing field, walked to our house, and went inside. No one could believe it, the greatest kickball game ever, and Russell ended it without explanation. I was amazed, not so much that I had won, but that he let my pieces stand in victory on the board. Although he had matured since his days of knocking the pieces off the board, I at least expected him to put the chess set away. Or openly discussing Russell's illness and seeking help and information would be ideal, but it's not likely to happen within my family. Through all of my struggling to come to terms with my brother's condition, my family simply accepts him as is. Please pause the recording and choose your answer to question 3. Question 4. One theme of About Russell by Rita Williams Garcia is that mental illness can be challenging, but it does not sever ties between family members. Which detail best explains how the author develops this theme over the course of the text? The author stays connected to her brother in one way or another throughout their entire lives. The author's brother shows signs of mental illness early on but never abandons his family. Or the author's parents never accept that their son has a mental illness but instead remain close to him. Please pause the recording and choose your answer to question 4. Question 5. Which quotation from the text best supports the conclusion that Russell's mental illness has not severed family ties? When I see others making strides in science and technology, I tell myself, Russell could have thought of that. Openly discussing Russell's illness and seeking help. I'm going to restart the answers to these questions. When I see others making strides in science and technology, I tell myself, Russell could have thought of that. Openly discussing Russell's illness and seeking help and information would be ideal, but it's not likely to happen within my family. Or, he looked up in time as we crossed towards him and said, Happy birthday, little sister. I smiled and said, Hey, Russell. Please pause the recording and check your answers for questions 1 through 5, all of which come from About Russell. For questions 6 through 10, you can refer to the Explorations in Literature or to your 3.05 guided reading of Mother Tongue for a complete version of the narrative. Which statement best expresses the theme of Mother Tongue by Amy Tan? People make inaccurate judgments about others based on the way they express themselves through language. The best way to understand someone's true abilities is to listen to him or her use language. Or it is possible to know someone's true capabilities based solely on his or her use of language. Please pause the recording and choose your answer to question 6. Question 7. Read this excerpt from Mother Tongue by Amy Tan. One time it was a call to her stockbroker in New York. She had cashed out all her small portfolio, and it just so happened we were going to New York next week, our very first trip outside California. I had to get on the phone and say in an adolescent voice that was not very convincing, "This is Mrs. Tan." And my mother was standing in the back whispering loudly, "Why he don't send me check? Already 2 weeks late. So mad he lied to me, losing me money." And then I said in perfect English, "Yes, I'm rather concerned. You had agreed to send the check 2 weeks ago, but it hasn't arrived." How does this detail develop the theme? It explains why the author's mother was not able to speak fluent English. It supports the idea that people judged the author's mother based on her language. It depicts how the author was embarrassed by her mother's use of English. Please pause the recording and choose your answer to question 7. Question 8. Read the excerpt from Mother Tongue by Amy Tan. I believed that her English reflected the quality of what she had to say. That is, because she expressed them imperfectly, her thoughts were imperfect. How does this detail develop the author's theme in Mother Tongue? It describes the author judging her mother based on her language. It reveals how the author currently feels about her mother, or it depicts how other people thought about the author's mother. Please pause the recording. Choose your answer to question 8. Question 9. Consider the anecdote about the CAT scan. We used a similar routine just 5 days ago for a situation that was far less humorous. My mother had gone to the hospital for an appointment to find out about a benign brain tumor a CAT scan had revealed a month ago. She said she had spoken very good English, her best English, no mistakes. Still, she said the hospital did not apologize when they said they lost the CAT scan, and she had come for nothing. She said they did not seem to have sympathy when she told them she was anxious to know the exact diagnosis, since her husband and son had both died of brain tumors. She said they would not give her any more information until the next time, and she would have to make another appointment for that. So she said she would not leave until the doctor called her daughter. She wouldn't budge. And when the doctor finally called her daughter, me, who spoke in perfect English, lo and behold, we had assurances that the CAT scan would be found, promises that a conference call on Monday would be held, and apologies for any suffering my mother had gone through for a most regrettable mistake. How does this anecdote develop the author's ideas about language? It illustrates how people who have medical knowledge are insensitive to patients. It shows that language one uses can have real and important consequences. Or it supports the idea that the author's mother is in good health, poor health. Question 10. Refer to the excerpt from Mother Tongue by Amy Tan. I am a writer. By that definition, I'm someone who's always loved language. I'm fascinated by language in daily life. I spend a great deal of my time thinking about the power of language and the way it can evoke an emotion, a visual image, a complex idea, or a simple truth. Language is the tool of my trade, and I use them all the Englishes I grew up with. Which statement best explains how the paragraph functions in Mother Tongue? It allows Tan to prove that only authors love language. It lets Tan focus primarily on what she views as the most important role of language, or it helps Tan explain the various important roles that language plays in our lives. Please pause your recording and choose your answer to number 10. Then go back and check over all of the answers for 6 through 10 from Mother Tongue. That concludes the first recording for the Unit 3 test. The second recording will include questions 11 through 15 and the cold read that goes with them.